The night shift at Research Station Delta 7 was usually quiet, especially in the medical bay. James Miller sat at his desk, mindlessly scrolling through xenobiology reports while sipping his third cup of coffee. The station, orbiting a distant moon in the outer rim, rarely saw any excitement beyond the occasional space debris hitting their shields. That was about to change. A thunderous crash echoed through the station, making James jump from his chair. The emergency lights flashed red, and the station's AI announced, "Warning, impact detected in Cargo Bay 3. Hull breach contained. Life support stable." James grabbed his emergency kit and rushed toward the cargo bay. As the station's only xenobiologist with medical training, it was his duty to investigate any potential biological threats. The metallic corridors echoed with his footsteps as he ran. When he reached the cargo bay's entrance, he found the massive doors dented inward, as if something had crashed through them at high speed. The station's automatic defense systems had sealed the breach with emergency force fields, containing whatever had broken in. "Computer, scan for life signs," James commanded, his heart pounding. One unidentified life form detected. "Caution. Biological signature matches Class X predator classification." James froze. Class X meant the galaxy's most dangerous predators. His training said to immediately lock down the area and call for military support. Instead, he found himself punching in his override code to enter the bay. The cargo bay was dark, containers scattered across the floor. In the corner, illuminated by the ethereal blue glow of the force field, lay a massive creature. Its body was covered in what looked like living shadows, constantly shifting and moving across its surface. Two sets of crystalline wings, now badly damaged, stretched from its back. James's breath caught in his throat. He recognized this species from his studies, the shadow hunters. Stories said they could tear through battleship armor like paper, move faster than tracking systems could follow, and had never been successfully captured alive. Every known encounter had ended in death or destruction. But this one wasn't attacking. It wasn't moving at all. James approached carefully, his medical scanner extended. The readings showed severe internal injuries and massive blood loss. Without immediate treatment, the creature would die within hours. Protocol was clear: let it die. Shadow hunters were too dangerous to risk saving. The military would probably give him a medal for documenting the first natural death of one. The creature's eyes opened slowly, all four of them. They glowed with an intense purple light, fixing on James. He expected to feel fear, but instead, he felt sadness. Deep, overwhelming sadness that didn't seem to be his own. Making a decision that would change his life forever, James activated his comm. "Computer, seal Cargo Bay 3. Authorization Miller 7 Alpha. Disable all external monitoring and initiate privacy protocols. Warning. Action violates station safety protocols. Override. Medical emergency." James approached the injured creature, holding up his empty hands. "I'm going to help you," he said softly, knowing it probably couldn't understand him. "Just, please don't eat me." The shadow hunter's eyes tracked his movement, but it made no aggressive moves. As James got closer, he felt more emotions that weren't his own: pain, confusion, and surprisingly, curiosity. Working quickly, James began treating the worst injuries. The creature's biology was unlike anything he'd studied, but the basic principles of trauma care seemed to apply. As he worked, he noticed something strange. The shadow hunter was deliberately keeping its natural weapons, razor-sharp claws and what appeared to be venomous spines, turned away from him. It was protecting him while he helped it. Hours passed as James worked tirelessly to save the creature's life. He used every trick he knew, every piece of medical equipment he could carry, and more than a few experimental treatments he probably shouldn't have tried. As the station's artificial dawn began to brighten the cargo bay, James sat back, exhausted but satisfied. The shadow hunter's readings had stabilized. It would live. The creature raised its head slightly, looking at James with those glowing purple eyes. Then, to his shock, a voice echoed in his mind, not in words, but in feelings and images. Gratitude, trust, a sense of debt. James smiled, reaching out to pat the creature's shoulder before he could think better of it. "You're welcome," he said, "though I have no idea how I'm going to explain this when the day shift arrives." The shadow hunter's response was clear in his mind. Amusement, followed by concern for his safety. This, James realized, was either the beginning of something amazing or the biggest mistake of his life. Probably both. The next few days tested every bit of James's ingenuity. Keeping a large predator hidden in a space station wasn't easy, especially when that predator was at the top of every known government's shoot-on-sight list. He'd converted a section of the cargo bay into a makeshift habitat, using storage containers to create walls and repurposing old padding from shipping crates for bedding. The shadow hunter, which he still couldn't believe was actually cooperating, had helped by using its ability to manipulate shadows to stay hidden whenever others came near. On the fourth morning, James entered the cargo bay with his usual supply of synthetic proteins and medical supplies. He found the creature attempting to stretch its healing wings, the crystalline structures catching the light and creating rainbow patterns on the walls. "Those are looking better," James said, setting down his supplies. "Though you probably shouldn't push it too hard yet." The response in his mind was immediate, a mixture of gratitude and frustration at being confined. But there was something else too, a deliberate attempt to communicate something more complex. James sat down cross-legged near the creature. "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you? Something more than just feelings." The shadow hunter's 4 eyes focused on him intently. Suddenly, James's mind filled with a series of rapid images: stars, ships, other shadow hunters, and finally, a clear image of the creature itself. Along with the image came a concept, a name that translated roughly to "swift through darkness." "That's your name?" James asked, excited by this breakthrough. Swift through darkness. Approval flooded his mind, followed by curiosity about his own name. "I'm James," he said, tapping his chest. "James Miller." The shadow hunter attempted to reproduce the name in his mind, but it came across as "heals with care." James laughed at the translation, but he had to admit it was fitting given their first encounter. Their moment of connection was interrupted by the cargo bay door sliding open. James's heart stopped as Tom Reed, the station's security chief, stepped in. "Miller, you in here? The sensors have been acting weird in this section." And Tom stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening as he spotted the shadow hunter. His hand immediately went to his weapon. "Wait." James jumped between them, hands raised. "Tom, don't shoot. It's not what you think." The shadow hunter remained perfectly still, but James could feel its tension. Surprisingly, he also felt its concern, not for itself, but for him. "Have you lost your mind?" Tom's weapon was drawn but shaking slightly. "That's a shadow hunter. It's killed more people than—" "It hasn't killed anyone here," James interrupted. "It's been here for 4 days, Tom. 4 days, and not one aggressive move. It's intelligent. It can communicate. Everything we thought we knew about them is wrong." "Step away from it, James," Tom ordered. "That's an order." Instead of moving away, James stood his ground. "I can't do that. I gave my word that I'd help it heal. If you want to report me, go ahead, but at least let me show you what I've learned first." Tom's weapon remained pointed at them, but uncertainty crept into his expression. "Show me what?" James turned slightly toward Swift through darkness. "Can you show him what you showed me? About your people?" The shadow hunter's response was immediate. Tom gasped as his mind filled with images. Shadow hunters living peacefully on their homeworld, their society, their arts, their families. The images showed how they had been attacked first, branded as monsters, and forced to defend themselves until the galaxy saw only the violence and forgot the civilization behind it. When the images faded, Tom's weapon had lowered slightly. That was real. As real as we are, James said. They're not mindless killers, Tom. They're refugees, survivors of a misunderstanding that turned into a genocide. And we have a chance to make it right. Tom holstered his weapon slowly, his hand shaking. The regulations say I have to report this. They also say we have a duty to preserve intelligent life. James countered. Give me time to document everything. Let me prove what they really are. Swift Through Darkness moved forward slowly, projecting feelings of peace and hope toward Tom. The security chief flinched but held his ground. 3 days, Tom finally said. You have 3 days to convince me this isn't the biggest mistake in human history. As Tom left, James felt relief flood through him, both his own and his alien friends. They had bought some time, but he knew the real challenges were just beginning. James spent the next 2 days barely sleeping, documenting everything he could learn about Swift Through Darkness and the Shadow Hunter species. Tom had given them 3 days, and they'd already used 2 of them. In the cargo bay, turned into an impromptu research lab, James sat with his tablet, while Swift Through Darkness shared more of its species history through mental images and emotions. So your people weren't always feared, James said, watching the memories unfold in his mind. He saw vast cities built within crystal forests, where shadow hunters used their abilities to bend light and shadow to create stunning works of art. You were artists, scientists, explorers. The response carried a deep sadness. Swift Through Darkness showed him more. Their first contact with other species, peaceful at first. Then came the misunderstanding that changed everything. A young shadow hunter, frightened by an aggressive alien trader, had instinctively defended itself. The trader died. News spread quickly, painting them as savage killers. When diplomatic missions tried to explain, their natural defensive abilities were seen as weapons of war. They attacked because they were afraid of you, James muttered, watching scenes of the first battles. And you defended yourselves, which only made them more afraid. Pride and sorrow mixed in the mental images. The shadow hunters had been powerful enough to defend themselves, but not to change how others saw them. Each victory in battle only reinforced their reputation as monsters. Tom entered the cargo bay, looking tired. He'd spent the last 2 days reviewing James's findings while keeping their secret from the rest of the station. Time's almost up, Miller. What have you got for me? James stood up excitedly. More than we ever imagined. Tom, they're telepathic empaths. They don't just share thoughts. They share feelings, memories, entire experiences. Their whole society was built on shared consciousness. Meaning what, exactly? Meaning they can't lie to each other. Their entire species lives in a state of complete emotional honesty. That's why they never developed weapons. They couldn't hide violent intentions from each other. Swift Through Darkness moved forward, its shadow-covered form rippling in the cargo bay lights. The creature projected a series of images to both humans, showing their defensive abilities in a new light. See, James pointed excitedly. What we thought were weapons are actually defensive adaptations. The shadow-shifting ability. It's for protection from their sun's radiation. Those crystal wings, they're solar energy collectors. Even their claws and spines are primarily for gathering food and climbing. Tom frowned. But they've killed people. In self-defense, James insisted, and usually by accident. Their strength and speed make it hard for them to fight without causing fatal injuries. That's why they started avoiding all contact. They couldn't bear the guilt of hurting others, even in self-defense. Swift Through Darkness projected a new series of images. Shadow hunters in hiding, scattered across the galaxy, living in fear of discovery. Small groups trying to preserve their culture while avoiding any contact that might lead to violence. There are others out there, James said softly. Hiding, alone, afraid. We could help them. Show the galaxy the truth. Tom watched as Swift Through Darkness demonstrated its abilities, not as weapons, but as they were meant to be used. The shadow manipulation created beautiful patterns in the air. The crystalline wings caught light and split it into dancing colors. Even the feared death touch was revealed to be a highly sensitive way of sharing emotions and memories. It's not just about clearing their name, James continued. Think about what we could learn from them. Their technology, their art, their understanding of consciousness itself. It's all been lost because of fear and misunderstanding. Swift through darkness reached out, carefully offering its clawed hand to Tom. The security chief hesitated, then slowly reached back. The moment they touched, Tom gasped as gentle waves of trust, hope, and gratitude flowed into his mind. When he stepped back, Tom's eyes were wide. That was incredible. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. All right, Miller, you've convinced me. But convincing me was the easy part. What do you mean? I mean, how do we convince everyone else? Because if we're going to help them, we're going to need a lot more than just good intentions. We're going to need a plan. As if in response, swift through darkness filled their minds with an image of hope. Shadow hunters and humans working together, sharing knowledge, building a new future. It was a beautiful dream, but making it reality would be the greatest challenge of their lives. The warning came at midnight station time. Tom's urgent voice crackled over James's personal comm. They found us. 2 bounty hunter ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're asking about unusual energy signatures. James rushed to the cargo bay, his heart pounding. Swift through darkness was already alert, its shadowy form rippling with tension. The creature's mental touch carried images of the ships. He recognized them, the same hunters who had injured him. How much time do we have? James asked Tom through his comm. 10 minutes. Maybe less. They're demanding to search the station. Tom's voice was tight. I can stall them at the docking bay, but not for long. Swift through darkness shared a rapid series of images. The hunters' brutal efficiency, their advanced tracking technology, their collection of shadow hunter body parts as trophies. The creature's fear wasn't for itself, but for the humans who had helped it. We're not giving up, James said firmly. Tom, can you get to the cargo bay? On my way. But James, they've got official bounty permits. If we resist, we're breaking about 15 galactic laws. James looked at Swift through darkness, remembering everything they'd learned about the Shadow Hunter's peaceful nature. Then maybe it's time some laws got broken. The cargo bay doors opened, and Tom rushed in, carrying extra weapons. They're docking now. 4 hunters, heavily armed. He handed James a stunner. Got a plan. Before James could answer, Swift through darkness projected an idea into their minds. James's eyes widened. That's brilliant, but dangerous. The station's AI announced. Warning. Unauthorized access detected in docking bay 2. Security protocols engage. They could hear heavy boots in the corridor. Tom raised his weapon, but Swift through darkness moved forward, its form seeming to grow larger. The mental message was clear. No killing. The cargo bay doors burst open. 4 figures in heavy combat armor stormed in, weapons raised. Their leader, a scared man with cybernetic eyes, grinned. Well, the energy signature was right. 1 shadow hunter, gift wrapped. This is a research station, James said, stepping forward. You have no authority here. The leader laughed. We have galaxy-wide permits to hunt these monsters. Step aside, or we'll assume you're contaminated by its telepathic influence. Swift through darkness moved with impossible speed, but not to attack. Instead, it wrapped James and Tom in its shadow form, protecting them. The hunters opened fire, but their energy bolts were absorbed by the living shadows. That's when they executed their plan. Tom hit the emergency containment protocols. Magnetic fields activated, and the artificial gravity shifted. The hunters, focused on Swift through darkness, weren't prepared. They floated helplessly, their magnetic boots failing against the reversed fields. Swift through darkness moved through the zero-gravity environment like it was born to it, using its crystalline wings to maneuver. With precise movements, it disabled the hunters' weapons, not with violence, but by simply pulling them away with shadows that moved like living things. The lead hunter triggered something on his armor. Kill protocol activated. Die, you monster. But Swift Through Darkness was ready. Instead of attacking, it opened its mind wide, broadcasting its memories not just to James and Tom, but to all 4 hunters. They saw the truth of the Shadow Hunters' peaceful civilization, felt the pain of their exile, experienced the fear of being hunted for a crime they didn't commit. The hunters' expressions changed from hatred to confusion, then to shock. Their leaders' cybernetic eyes sparked as they were overwhelmed by the telepathic data. That's impossible," one hunter whispered. They're not what we thought." James stepped forward, still protected by the living shadows. "No, they're not. They never were. The question is, now that you know the truth, what are you going to do about it?" The lead hunter, floating in the zero gravity, looked at Swift Through Darkness with new eyes. "All these years, all these hunts, we were wrong." Tom restored gravity slowly, letting everyone down gently. Swift Through Darkness pulled back its shadows, but remained ready to defend if needed. "We can't undo what's been done," James said, "but we can start making it right. Are you willing to help us tell the truth?" The hunters looked at each other, then at their discarded weapons, and finally at the majestic creature they had spent years trying to destroy. The lead hunter removed his tactical helmet, revealing a face marked by years of battle. Where do we start? The recording of Swift Through Darkness sharing memories with the bounty hunters went viral across the galactic networks within hours. James watched the view counter climb into the billions while emergency meetings were called across every major government. "It's chaos out there," Tom said, looking at the dozens of incoming messages on the station's main screen. "Half the galaxy wants to talk to us. The other half wants us arrested." The converted cargo bay had become their command center. Swift Through Darkness stood near the communications array, helping them sort through the diplomatic requests flooding in. The 4 former bounty hunters, led by their commander Max, had chosen to stay as witnesses. "The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session," James said, reading the latest alert. "They're demanding we appear before them." Swift Through Darkness projected an image of other shadow hunters emerging from hiding, seeking contact. After centuries of isolation, the entire species was watching, waiting to see if it was finally safe to return. The station's AI interrupted. Priority transmission from Earth Central Command. A stern-faced admiral appeared on the main screen. "Research Station Delta 7. You are hereby ordered to cease all contact with the Shadow Hunter entity and prepare for military containment teams." James stepped forward. "Admiral, with respect, we can't do that. What we've discovered here is a violation of at least 20 different security protocols," the Admiral cut in. "That creature is classified as a Class X threat. Your entire station has been compromised." Swift Through Darkness moved into view of the transmission. The Admiral flinched, but before he could speak, the Shadow Hunter broadcast its memories, not just to the Admiral, but to everyone connected to the transmission. Images flowed. Shadow Hunters teaching their young about art and science, their ceremonies of peace, their first tragic contact with other species. The Admiral's eyes widened as he experienced centuries of fear, loss, and hope for peace. When the memories faded, the Admiral sat in stunned silence. Finally, he whispered, "How? How did we get it so wrong?" "Because we let fear guide us," James said, "but now we have a chance to make it right." New alerts flashed across the screens. Other shadow hunters had begun appearing across the galaxy, each sharing their memories with local authorities. The story was the same everywhere: peaceful contact, understanding, and the beginning of dialogue. "The Galactic Council session is starting," Tom announced. "They're asking for our testimony." On the main screen, representatives from 100 species argued. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for investigation. A few brave voices asked for peace. James stepped up to address them, with Swift through darkness by his side. Members of the council, what you're seeing isn't an invasion or a trick. It's the truth we've been too afraid to see. The shadow hunters never wanted war. They'd wanted to share their knowledge, their art, their understanding of the universe. The council chamber erupted in debate, but something was different this time. In hundreds of locations across the galaxy, other shadow hunters were sharing their memories, their truth. Each shared experience changed minds, opened hearts. This is bigger than just one species, James continued. This is about all of us, about how fear can blind us to the truth. The shadow hunters can teach us things we never imagined, about consciousness, about peace, about what's possible when we choose understanding over fear. A young council member stood up. I move that we immediately resign the Class X classification and establish a joint commission for peaceful contact. The motion sparked fierce debate, but as more memories were shared, as more people experienced the truth firsthand, the tide began to turn. Swift through darkness projected a final image to everyone watching. A future where humans and shadow hunters work together, sharing technology, art, and knowledge. A future without fear. The council voted. The resolution passed by a narrow margin, but it passed. The shadow hunters were no longer outlaws. It's just the beginning, Tom said, watching the celebration spread across the galaxy. There will be those who resist, who cling to the old fears. James nodded, feeling Swift through darkness's mix of joy and caution. But now, they know the truth. And the truth has a way of spreading, one mind at a time. Across the galaxy, shadow hunters emerged from hiding, each finding humans willing to listen, to learn, to understand. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, started by one act of compassion in a forgotten cargo bay. 1 month after the Galactic Council's historic vote, Research Station Delta 7 had transformed from a quiet outpost to the center of a cultural revolution. The cargo bay where it all started was now a diplomatic hub, with representatives from dozens of worlds coming to learn from Swift through darkness. James watched as another group of diplomats experienced the shadow hunters' memories. Their faces showed the now familiar progression: surprise, understanding, and finally, shame at their species' part in the great misunderstanding. That's the 5th group today, Tom said, checking his datapad. And more shadow hunters are coming forward. We've confirmed colonies on 17 different worlds. Swift through darkness projected an image of their hidden homeworld, a beautiful planet orbiting a binary star system. For centuries, its location had been their most closely guarded secret. Now, it was time to share that too. The station's AI announced, incoming transmission from Shadow Hunter Central Colony. The main screen lit up with an impossible sight. Hundreds of shadow hunters gathered in an underground city built of living crystal and shadow. Their leader, an ancient one whose shadows rippled with patterns of wisdom, addressed them directly. James Miller, the leader's thoughts reached them clearly. You have done what we thought impossible. You looked past fear to see truth. Now we must share our final secret. Swift through darkness moved closer to James, adding its strength to the telepathic connection. The leader's memories flowed into everyone present. They saw the shadow hunters' true purpose. They were guardians, created by an ancient race to protect the galaxy's consciousness itself. Their abilities weren't weapons, but tools to heal rifts in the fabric of thought and emotion that connected all living things. We were meant to unite species, not divide them, the leader explained. Our fear separated us from our purpose. But through your act of kindness, we can finally return to our role. The diplomats watched in awe as the shadow hunters demonstrated their full abilities. They could sense emotional disturbances across light years, use their shadows to heal psychological trauma, and their crystalline wings could channel the very energy of thought. All this time, James breathed, you weren't predators at all. You were healers. Max, the former bounty hunter leader, stepped forward. That's why our weapons were so effective against them. We weren't just hurting their bodies, we were damaging their connection to the galaxy's consciousness. The ancient shadow hunter nodded. For centuries, we watched as fear and mistrust grew among the galaxy's species. We knew we could help, but our own fear held us back. Until now. As if to demonstrate, the gathered shadow hunters joined their abilities. Everyone in the station felt a wave of peace and clarity wash over them. Across the galaxy, others reported the same sensation. A moment of perfect understanding. "This is what we offer," the leader said. "Not weapons or power, but understanding. The ability to truly know one another, to heal the divisions that tear us apart." The diplomats broke into excited discussion. Representatives from worlds that had been enemies for generations found themselves able to truly understand each other's perspectives for the first time. James felt swift through darkness's joy at finally revealing their true nature. "But why show us now?" he asked. The answer came in images. The galaxy was approaching a crisis point. Too many species, too much fear, too much potential for devastating conflict. The shadow hunters had hidden, hoping someone would prove worthy of their trust before it was too late. "Humanity showed us another way," the leader explained. "Through you, James Miller, we learned that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting with compassion despite fear." Tom looked at the gathered diplomats, all changed by what they'd learned. "So what happens now?" "Now," the Ancient One said, "we begin the real work. Together, we'll build what should have been built centuries ago. A galaxy united not by force or fear, but by understanding." Swift through darkness shared a final image. Thousands of shadow hunters emerging from hiding, each paired with humans who would help them reconnect with other species. A network of healing and understanding spanning the galaxy. As the diplomats drafted new accords and the shadow hunters prepared to reclaim their role as guardians, James looked at his friend. Not a monster, but a healer who had trusted him with the greatest secret in the galaxy. The truth wasn't just revealed. It was, finally, set free. 1 year after James Miller first saved a wounded shadow hunter in a cargo bay, Research Station Delta 7 had become the galaxy's premier center for interspecies cooperation. The station had grown to triple its original size, with new wings dedicated to cultural exchange, diplomatic relations, and most importantly, the newly established Human Shadow Hunter Academy. James walked through the academy's main hall, watching students from dozens of species learning from both human and shadow hunter teachers. Swift through darkness, now the head instructor of telepathic studies, floated nearby, its crystalline wings casting rainbow patterns across the walls. "The latest results are in," Tom said, joining them with a datapad. Now the Academy's security director, he had traded his tactical gear for a formal uniform. Mental health improvements across all participating worlds are up by 300%. Turns out having telepathic therapists who can literally share feelings makes a difference. James smiled as a young shadow hunter demonstrated to a class how to use shadow manipulation for art therapy. In another room, human doctors worked with shadow hunter healers, combining traditional medicine with emotional healing. Ambassador Miller, a junior aide, rushed up. "The Galactic Council's Unity ceremony is about to begin. They're waiting for you." James straightened his diplomatic robes, something he still wasn't used to wearing. "Ready for another historic moment?" he asked swift through darkness. His friend's response carried amusement. After a year of practice, their telepathic communication was nearly perfect. "As ready as you were in that cargo bay," came the thought, tinged with warmth and humor. They made their way to the station's grand hall, where representatives from every major species had gathered. The ancient shadow hunter leader, now known as the First Guardian, waited at the center of the chamber. 1 year ago, the First Guardian's thoughts reached everyone present. A single act of compassion began to heal wounds centuries old. Today, we take the next step. Max, who had transformed his bounty hunting operation into a search and rescue service for isolated shadow hunters, stood with his former team. Never thought I'd see the day when the galaxy's most feared predators would become its most respected healers. The ceremony began. One by one, shadow hunters paired with representatives from different species, establishing permanent diplomatic and healing bonds. Each partnership was unique. Some focused on technological exchange, others on artistic collaboration, many on mental health and emotional healing. James watched as Swift Through Darkness officially became Earth's first shadow hunter ambassador. Their friendship, which had started the whole revolution, was now formally recognized by every government in known space. But the real work is just beginning. James addressed the gathering. We've learned that understanding isn't just about knowledge, it's about connection. Every shadow hunter who shares their memories, every human who reaches out in friendship, every species that chooses trust over fear, they all add to the network of consciousness that binds our galaxy together. The first guardian moved forward, its ancient form shimmering with power. For too long, we hid our greatest gift, the ability to unite consciousness across the stars. Now, with humanity's help, we can finally fulfill our purpose. As if to demonstrate, every shadow hunter in the room joined their abilities. The gathered representatives gasped as they felt themselves connected to a vast network of thought and emotion, the beginning of a galactic community of minds. "This is what we can achieve together," James said, feeling Swift Through Darkness's pride and hope beside him. Not just peace between species, but true understanding. A future where no one needs to hide who they are, where fear gives way to friendship, where even the most terrifying stranger might become your closest ally. Tom chuckled, "All because you didn't follow protocol in a cargo bay." "Sometimes," James replied, watching human and shadow hunter students practicing together. "Breaking the rules is the most human thing we can do." The ceremony concluded with the announcement of new joint missions, exploration teams of humans and shadow hunters venturing into unknown space, seeking other isolated species who might benefit from their combined wisdom. As the gathering celebrated, James stood with Swift Through Darkness at a viewport, watching the stars. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" he asked his friend. The shadow hunter's response was both simple and profound. An image of that first moment in the cargo bay, when a wounded creature and a compassionate human chose trust over fear. Sometimes, the smallest choices create the biggest changes, and in the vastness of space, a new era had begun, one where humanity's greatest strength proved to be not their technology or their weapons, but their capacity to look past appearances and find friendship in the most unexpected places.